Hi, I'm Matt Smalling. I am Uncle Bob's nephew. That's why he's my uncle. And he always said that he was my dad's fifth son. But anyway, so back when his mom passed away at her funeral, my Uncle Bob said, he came up to me and I called Sarah and said, "Listen, dummy, this is not about you. It's about her." So today is all about Bob, all about Uncle Bob. So we're here to celebrate his life. And we're just going to start off with a quick prayer, and then we'll turn it over to somebody else. Not sure who that is. We'll find out. So prepare yourself in a manner that you're accustomed to. Lord, we just want to thank you for bringing us all here together safely today. We want to thank you for blessing us with a wonderful uncle, wonderful father, dad, brother, and blessing us with his life and allowing us to be part of his life and allowing all of us to come together here. We just hope, Lord, you bring us closer to each other and closer to you in your name. Amen. One other thing I wanted to mention is that my Uncle Bob has an older brother. My dad, Jack Smalling, he's in Ames, Iowa, and his sister, Nancy Paisley, is in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and they were not able to be here today, but they are watching on that Facebook Live right there. Thanks.
Hello everybody. I'm Oscar, and these are really grandkids. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
My name's Maddie.
Joey.
I'm Owen.
And we're gonna read a little poem here for a second. I'd like the memory of me to be a happy one. I'd like to leave an afterglow of smiles when life is done.
I like to leave an echo whispering slowly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright sunny days.
I'd like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun, of happy memories that I leave when life is done. And that was Afterglow. Thank you very much.
That's not awkward. I'm going to project, so don't worry. Can you all hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm Susie Smalling. I am one of Bob's daughters. This is my emotional support, David. My emotional support, David, will also be playing the role of Bob a couple times during my eulogy today. You'll understand that more as we go along here. Wherever Bob is, I can guarantee you he is incredibly pissed off right now because he would love to be here with all his favorite people gathered like this. There's nothing Bob loved more than seeing all of his favorite friends and family. I think he was more excited for that at my wedding than my wedding itself because he really loved his people. That said, I have to give you extra gratitude for coming today because here is the harsh truth. If the tables had been turned and this was your funeral, Bob would not be there. Bob hated funerals. And because of that, he did not always attend them when he should. But before you get too harsh in your criticisms of Bob for that particular flaw, you should know that it's because he loved his people so much. He particularly loved babies, so he would not mind this at all. But he loved his friends, and he loved his friends like family. And he was a fierce and loyal friend, always willing to help people out when they needed it. I'm guessing if I did a show of hands, there are several of you in here who had their lawn mowed by Bob at one point or another in life, including mowing your lawn if your lawnmower, where are you, Weber? If your lawnmower was pretty jacked up, stuck in high gear, so it only went fast. And it was a near-death experience every time Bob had to mow it. I know that because he usually called me on the way home. So Bob was a very good friend, and I should say, since I've now thrown him under the bus, that Jim was also a really wonderful friend to Bob and Mary and helped them rebuild the floor in Long Beach Day. Those of you that saw Long Beach Day back in the day, it needed a lot of work. Now, if you are a friend of Bob's, I am guessing that you know a lot about me, whether you liked it or not. But the truth is, I also know a lot about a lot of you. I know about Barb Hunter's dogs and her pet squirrel. Phil, I know all about your wonderful grandchildren that you adored. Rick Taylor, wherever you are, I think I know just about every menu of every gourmet meal that you ever prepared for them. So as much as you all have been tortured over the years, having to learn about us, just know we also got to learn about you and the wonderful relationships that you all had with Bob. One of the things I admire most about my dad is that he loved his friends and family for exactly who we were. Didn't need us to be anybody else. That's one of the things I'm hoping that I, in the future, can emulate better with my dad. You also know that my dad really loved his grandchildren. Oscar, you were his first grandchild, and therefore you had a very special place in his heart. I talked to him the day before he died, and he was looking forward to you getting back from Bonnaroo because he wanted to connect with you. Bob's email address is literally Oscar's grandpa. One of the things I'll remember most, it's an image that's forever in my head, is Oscar riding on my dad's shoulders with my dad singing,
"Let me tell you about my best friend. He's my one boy, cuddly toy, my up, my down, my pride and joy. Let me tell you about
Oscar!" Joey, I think you know how much you meant to your grandfather and how much he loved watching you play baseball. But what you might not know as much, but I heard about 1,000 times over the last year, is how proud he was of the man you were becoming, your maturity, the relationships you had with people, the way you were able, your work ethic, and the relationships you forged with your team. Owen, I think your grandfather and I have both said 1,000 times that you are the nicest, kindest kid that has ever lived. He also loved watching you do all your sports, but I think the thing he loved the most is that your basketball skills vastly, vastly exceed those of Joey. He was fond of saying it. If there's one thing my dad loved in life, it was a sassy woman. And let me tell you, Madison, you are a sassy woman. You filled your grandfather's life with such joy, and you do that for the rest of us, too. Bob had attended a ton of sporting events for all of his grandchildren, and particularly a lot of baseball games, with Joey playing baseball. But I'm going to tell you the truth right now, which is this. I did not like sitting next to my dad at baseball games. Bob loved to razz umpires, and he did it loudly. Case in point, there was a time I was watching one of Joey's games on ESPN Plus, and the opposing manager had gone out himself to yell at the umpire, which was, of course, creating a delay in the game. A delay Bob was not too fond of, at which point he yelled to the umpire,
Play baseball!
And I could hear that clear as day on the broadcast. I know that because I texted him and said, did you just yell play baseball? And I just get back, yep. Now, while Bob liked to razz umpires, and I didn't love that, what I did love was how excited he got every time the team he was cheering for did something good, particularly if they turned to double play. And if they turned to double play, Bob always yelled,
That's baseball!
Thus the sign up here that one of, I think it was Joey, one of your teams? Jane. No. Are you here, Jane? Made this sign for him. So in his honor, I would like us all to do just one That's Baseball on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
That's baseball!
Because of all the times he attended sporting events, but also because he was a track official, and also because he had 4 daughters who had a lot of friends, Bob had a really profound impact on a lot of kids' lives. And I think sometimes more than all of us knew. Even more than I knew for one of my childhood friends. So I'm going to read something that they wrote that I got in an email this week about Bob, because I thought it was kind of a special indicator of the effect he had on people's lives outside our family. She writes, "I will forever remember your dad as the one who taught us how to open mollusk shells in the creek, the one who introduced me to Flash Gordon and the Star Wars universe at a 9 p.m. movie theater showing, which was so exciting to me in elementary school. The one who jokingly tried to cover my eyes when we watched Splash and Daryl Hannah's naked breasts appeared. The person who drove us to Cedar Point, coaxed me through roller coaster anxiety, and pulled the splinter out from under my nail on the way up the first hill of the Gemini. In all the other ways, he showed up for me as a relaxed father figure throughout childhood. He was truly a good man and will be missed." One of my dad's track friends told him a story about being at the starting line. I think it was at a cross-country meet, and one of the runners wanted to know where Bob was, because Bob had always started that particular meet. And when he told her that he was ill and was in the hospital, the runner, who had only met my dad in that capacity, started to cry. And I think that just shows how quickly and easily my dad made relationships with people. Now, my dad had some imperfections, as we all do. One of which is he would say nice things about my sisters and I to each other, about us, but not to us. We made fun of this on a regular basis. So let me say a few things to my sisters, who I'm not going to look at while I do this. Woo! So, Nancy, I think it is pretty obvious to those that know both of us that all of the genetic pool that we share that had any humility in it all landed on Nancy and missed me. And as such, my dad, and I've heard him say this another 1,000 times, she just doesn't know how good she is. She doesn't know how good a lawyer she is. She just has no idea. He just thought you were remarkable at your job. And admittedly, we also both made fun of you for all the things you did in the community on top of working as hard as you do as a lawyer, along with being the fiercest of mothers. Speaking of fierce mothers, Kendra. He's very proud of the mother that you are, but he's also proud of all the things that you have accomplished in so many areas of your life, but most notably this past maybe year or two, how many people that you have helped. And Meg. His line to me was always how you just built this amazing career from 0 to 60. He was so proud of you for buying your first house, and I think I heard so frequently recently about how I gotta see that house, I gotta see that house. But honestly, the thing I think of the most when it comes to you is how much you loved your friends. And I think it says something about you that you had such amazing friends that you let be part of Bob and Mary's life also. I'm going to talk more about my own relationship with my dad here in a moment. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Mary. My dad said often in life that we were the most important thing to him, his daughters, that he lived vicariously through us. But as his daughter, I can tell you unequivocally that the best thing that ever happened to my dad was Mary. My dad and Mary were not a match, but they are perfectly matched. My dad could be a little curmudgeonly now and again, get a little grumpy and stuff. But he found Mary, who I think we can all agree is like the human embodiment of joy. She is goofy, she is silly, she's a little bit weird. And she definitely brought out the best in my dad. If my dad dared get in one of his little curmudgeonly moods, Mary could usually silly it out of him. But if she couldn't silly it out of him, she would just fire off a well-timed, "Change the channel, Bobby." And he would know it was time to knock that off. Now, my dad and Mary really delighted in each other, and they had some adventurous times together. But when I think about them, the thing I think about is how much they love doing the mundane together, like taking their recycling to the recycling place. I know that because I almost always got a phone call from the two of them so they could tell me they were going to the recycling place. I would also get phone calls when they were going on one of their dates. They didn't call them dates. I called them dates because I thought it was so cute. when they would go get takeout together, and then they would go sit by the lake somewhere to eat their takeout. My dad didn't like being away from Mary. So if Mary was gone at one of Maddie's cheerleading tournaments or the like, I always got extra Bob phone calls because he would get lonely, because their relationship was very special. This, I think, captures it, and it's a small thing, but one of my favorites. Some of you may know that my dad was prone to falling asleep in his chair. He could fall asleep in his chair with chaos ensuing around him. The TV going, us all talking, maybe even dogs barking. But if Mary walked over to check and see if maybe he wanted to go to bed instead of sleeping in his chair, she only needed to whisper, "Bobby." And he would wake up instantly at the sound of her voice. And I think that captures the relationship they had together. This last year, my dad had a lot of health issues. He was in and out of the hospital some. He had a long recovery from open heart surgery. And Mary gave him the most wonderful care during that time. Thank you, Mary. All right, this is the point where Bob would be yelling at me for being too maudlin and tell me to knock it off. So let's spend a little time talking about Bob humor. That came up a lot when I was in the back of the room. Bob's humor sort of ranged from the really corny dad joke to the mildly inappropriate. My cousin, Robbie, who you'll hear from here in a moment, had a radio show for a while in college. And his radio show played like 90s alternative type music. And when he was on the radio one night, my dad decided to call him, and then affecting his most obnoxious country accent, asked Robbie to play Giddy Up Go by Red Sovine. Now, Giddy Up Go by Red Sovine is, I think, what they used to call a talkie, so like a country song. Giddy Up Go was actually a semi-truck, and it's this very sad, literal, like my wife left me, my dog died, like that kind of a song. And Robbie tried to be very gracious with this obnoxious caller about not sure if he had that song or those kind of things. And it was only when my dad repeatedly said, "Most people call me Uncle Bob," that Robbie finally realized it was his uncle calling to prank him on his radio show. Now, he did a lot of track meets. He loved nothing more than puzzling a group of runners by telling them to line up by height according to age. The Myers are here. My dad loved to torture their younger daughter by every time we went to pick her up when I was a kid, he liked to hit the window washer fluid so it would hit her in the face when she was trying to get in the car. And he, there's countless pictures of him with like his finger fake up his nose too. Now, Bob humor could also border a little on the inappropriate at times. When one of my sisters got a belly button ring, he graciously offered to tie it to the ceiling fan. And when any of us were involved in anything like choir or the like, he liked to yell,
"That's my Meg up there!"
Bob often said his goal in life was to grow old enough to be an embarrassment to his children. To give you a little idea what I mean by inappropriate, and this is just a little inappropriate, Bob also was fond, one of his very favorite things to do to me, if I was struggling with a particular activity or the like, to say, "Oh, you're having a hard time with that because of your enormous ass." To be clear, that is not because I, in fact, had or currently have an enormous ass. It's the opposite. He was making fun of me for being skinny because he also used to call me the runt of the litter. If you see me not standing in these heels around my sisters, you would understand that. I do want to talk a little about my own relationship with my dad before then I finish with two requests of you. So I had a very special relationship with my dad, and we talked all the time on the phone. And one of the things, we used to, talk almost every day. But a night I remember really clearly, and I've been thinking a lot the last couple weeks, was about sometime a year ago, last summer. And I was doing what I call my two-screen experience, which means I was watching 2 baseball games at once, one on my iPad, one on my TV. Both Mary and David, my husband David, had gone to bed, and somehow I think I called Bob to ask him a baseball-related question. And at this, one of the things I annoyed Bob most about me is that I often used to watch, I still do, watch baseball games after they happened. And then I would yell at him not to spoil them for me until I had a chance to watch them. And he used to say to me,
You know, some people actually watch baseball.
yeah. So one of the things that was great about this night on the phone, and why I remember it so well, is that we both were watching the same baseball game, except for my feed for that baseball game was about 30 seconds ahead of his, which means I could spoil everything that was happening in the baseball game while we were talking to her, which of course resulted in Bob saying one of his signature lines, which is,
Her tickles her.
yeah. Now, I don't remember a lot about the details that we talked about in that conversation. I'm pretty sure he told the story about our grandfather playing baseball with Satchel Paige. But I do remember getting off that call and just loving that I could have these kind of fun, hilarious, pointless phone calls with my own dad on a regular basis. Nobody celebrated me more than my dad did. If something good happened, there's nobody else I wanted to tell than him right away. But when I think about what I'm going to miss about him, it's those phone calls. It's having that time. I know it sounds wildly cliche that my dad was truly my best friend, but he also had a lot of great friends, and he loved all his family so much. So I want to end with 2 requests of you. My first request is this. I want you to miss him. I want you to miss him, and I want you to tell stories about him, the good, the bad, and the ridiculous. Ideally, I want you to put those stories in writing on his memory page so we have them. But in general, I just want you to remember him. But to be clear, that's not what Bob wants. That's what I want and what I need. Bob really believes, and he said this many times, that he thinks we all live on through the people that knew us. So what Bob wants and what Bob needs is for us all to go on and live full and wonderful and happy lives. I'm not going to be able to do that for a while, but I will someday. And when I do, I'll be doing it for my dad. Thank you.
Bob loved Paul Simon, and this is a Paul Simon song that he loved. If you leap awake in the middle of a bad dream, and for a fraction of a second you can't remember where you are, just open your window and follow your memory upstream to the meadow in the mountain where we counted every fallen star. I believe a light that shines on you will shine on you forever. Though I can't guarantee there's nothing scary hiding under your bed, he'll be standing guard like a postcard of a golden retriever, and never ever leave you till there's a sweeter dream in your head. Gonna watch you shine, gonna watch you grow, gonna paint a sign loved his daughters more than Bob loved you. Trust your intuition, it's just like going fishing. You cast your line and hope you get a bite. But you don't need to waste your time worrying about the marketplace. Try to help the human race, struggling to survive its harshest night. Gonna watch you shine, gonna watch you grow, gonna paint a sign so you'll always know, as long as 1 and 1 is 2. There could never be a father who loved his daughters more than Bob loved you. Gonna watch you shine, gonna watch you grow, gonna paint a sign so you'll always know, as long as 1 and 1 is 2. There could never be a father who loved his daughters more than Bob loved you.
In closing, some Irish words of encouragement for Uncle Bob. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am the thousand winds that blow. I am the diamond glints of snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you waken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of gentle birds in circling flight. I am the soft star that shines at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die.
This does conclude everything here at the funeral home today. Again, we would like to invite everyone to 419 East Main Street. If you do need directions, we do have some sheets by the front door there that will help you get to the house. You're all dismissed as you please. Thank you.